Hi, everybody, and welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
I'm Kathy.
So, Kathy, have you ever gotten in trouble at any jobs you've had?
Well, actually, I do have an experience of getting into trouble at one of my jobs.
Oh.
I was an international saleswoman after I graduated from college, and it was my first job. I remember that my manager was on a business trip to America, and on that day, I had a fever and a headache.
Oh.
That was when I got into trouble. I had 4 different kinds of orders for a customer, and I placed the wrong amount for each order. And when I found out this mistake, it was too late because our factory had already produced the products.
Oh, no.
My boss was furious when she was back from her trip, and I wish that this will never happen again in my life. Have you ever gotten into trouble at any of your jobs, Pat?
Nothing like this. I'm sure I've made plenty of mistakes here and there. One that sticks in mind where I did go and speak to HR, which we'll kind of get into today, but it was kind of because they'd misunderstood something. I was in super casual clothes in the office, and I was in HR for something else. I needed some paperwork, and they said, you kind of look a little casual for the job. And I said, well, actually, the paperwork I need is my, leaving the company paperwork, and this is my last week.
Wow.
And so they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand why you're kind of chilled out with your clothes. So I got a sort of a 5-minute talk about you should dress professionally, and then they were like, oh, actually, you can forget all that because you're leaving next week anyway. But yeah, we're going to talk about HR and getting involved related to today's article and tomorrow's. First, we're going to look at one of the problems that can happen in a workplace. So let's read through day 1 of this article and see what the deal is.
Reading. Workplace behavior. When conversation crosses personal boundaries.
Good morning, Thomas.
Hey, Jackie. How was your weekend?
It was great. I went to Hualien with my boyfriend.
You've got a boyfriend? I'm so disappointed.
What do you mean?
Well, I thought I had a chance with you.
I don't date guys I work with.
Well, you always wear sexy clothing to work, so I thought you wanted an office boyfriend.
My clothes aren't sexy. We have to dress nicely for this job. You wear a suit and tie, but I don't think you're sending me signals.
Well, you're an attractive girl, so if things don't work out with your boyfriend, I'm available anytime.
Look, Thomas, this conversation is making me uncomfortable.
You really don't know how to take a compliment. I only want to say you look good.
But you need to be mature in the office, Thomas. We have to work together every day. I don't want to sit beside a colleague who is looking at me that way.
Okay, maybe we should just end this conversation now and just get to work.
So today we have a conversation between Jackie and Thomas. However, we first need to look at a couple of words in the title, workplace behavior when conversation crosses personal boundaries. So the first word we'll look at is behavior. This is the noun form of the verb behave. Your behavior is how you act around other people. It's the things you do, the things you say, how you make people feel, and how polite or not you are.
今天我们要来看一篇和工作场合有关的文章，特别是在讲呢，当同事的言论越过了界限该如何应对哦，可以说是一篇呢很生活化的议题咯。那么标题这边出现了 workplace behavior， 这里的 behavior 是举止跟行为，在这边是当名词使用。那如果是动词就是 behave。 For example, she always behaves well when her aunts come to visit.
Right. The other word we need to look at is boundaries, when conversation crosses personal boundaries. The boundary is the edge of something, and this word is often used to mean not a physical one, but just the end or limit of what is acceptable, okay behavior, and what isn't. If you cross a boundary, you go from one area to another. So from doing something that's okay to something that isn't. A personal boundary is what one person considers to be okay for them, such as questions, topics of conversation, things, acts, words they can accept. But if you cross this boundary, you're likely to upset or offend them.
那么标题后面还有一句话，这里说 When conversation crosses personal boundaries， 当同事的言论呢越过界限，你该如何应对？ Crosses 在这里意思是超过、越过，而 boundary 就是名词，指界限。那如果你说的话或是行为举止让某人感到不舒服，就是超越界限了。我们来看 boundary 这边举个例子 Try to show love while respecting each other's boundaries.Exactly.
So someone's going to cross a personal boundary in this conversation, and we see it's between Thomas and Jackie. They work in the same office, and Jackie says, like she probably does every morning or most mornings, "Good morning, Thomas."
And then Thomas replies in a normal way too, saying in the article, "Hey Jackie, how was your weekend?"
So this is polite, normal work conversation on a Monday morning. Nothing that's crossing any boundaries here. Now Jackie replies to Thomas's question, and she says, "It was great. I went to Hualien with my boyfriend."
Now things start to become a little less normal and a bit more personal. Thomas says in the article, "You've got a boyfriend? I'm so disappointed."
Now, maybe Thomas is trying to make a joke here, and it does depend on the way he says these words, like "I'm so disappointed," and it depends how well he knows Jackie. Now, if he and Jackie are very good friends, or suppose like Thomas was gay and there's going to be no kind of problem between the two of them, it might be okay to say, "Oh, you've got a boyfriend. Oh no, I'm so disappointed." It could just be a bit of fun. However, they may not know each other very well. Okay, maybe they're just co-workers. They don't really know each other personally. So Jackie thinks what Thomas said was a bit strange, maybe not really work conversation. And she says, "What do you mean?"
And so then Thomas explained himself, saying in an article, "Well, you know, I thought I had a chance with you."
So this phrase, to have a chance with someone, if you have a chance with someone, it means that maybe the other person likes you and might consider going on a date with you, starting a relationship, that kind of thing. You know, you think there's a bit of romantic interest between the two of you.
这里的 A has a chance with B 常用来表示 A 和 B 呢是有机会在一起的，因此在文章这边呢，意思是 Thomas 表示他以为自己曾有机会和 Jackie 在一起交往的意思。
So we can see that this conversation has gone from some friendly chat to something that is way too personal. And Jackie says, I don't date guys I work with.
Really, Thomas should stop talking here. Or he should say he was joking and make sure Jackie doesn't think he's creepy. However, he does exactly the opposite. He says in the article, "Well, you always wear sexy clothing to work, so I thought you wanted an office boyfriend."
Oh, this is just weird, and it's also wrong. Like, don't do what Thomas is doing here, ever. Let's look then at the word sexy. We use this adjective when we want to describe somebody as attractive, but in a way that's basically more about sex than just saying someone is handsome or beautiful. Sexy clothing makes you look, you know, kind of hot. And we think of things like short skirts, tight clothes, anything that reveals a bit of your body and its shape is sexy clothing. Now, sometimes it feels nice to wear sexy clothes to a party, but they're not generally something you wear to work. Let's look at a different use of this word. Some people say that men with a deep voice sound sexy.
这句当中呢 Thomas 就说Jackie 呢总是穿着很性感来上班，所以这边 sexy 就是性感的意思，是形容词。这个字同时也有迷人的、吸引人的意思，比较级是 sexier， 最高级是 sexiest。So
Thomas is really making things worse here. He thinks Jackie's trying to look sexy with her clothes, so her co-workers ask her out. Jackie strongly disagrees. She says, "My clothes aren't sexy. You know we have to dress nicely for this job."
Jackie then talks about Thomas's clothes. She says, "You wear a suit and tie, but I don't think you're sending me signals."
So here we're talking about sending signals that someone is attracted to you and wants to date you and would like you to ask them out. Thomas's suit doesn't send that signal. He's wearing a suit, and a suit is a smart set of clothes that usually consist of a shirt, a jacket, and pants. The colors of the jacket and pants are the same, and the shirt goes well with them.There are business suits that you wear for work, or more fancy and formal suits you might wear to a wedding. For example, we could say, I better put on my suit for my job interview so that I look smart and responsible.
这里的 signal 这个字呢，有信号或者是暗号的意思，因此在文章这边的 send somebody signals 表示给予某人，特别是指情感上面的暗示。在这里呢 Jackie 表示她从来不觉得 Thomas 有给她任何的暗示，而 suit 是指一套衣服或者指西装，这个字如果后面加上一个一就变成 suite， 意思就变成了套房了，是完全不一样的，所以大家呢可别搞混了。
Okay, so Jackie's kind of trying to tell Thomas that he's got the wrong idea and he should not keep talking like this. But he keeps going on and he says, well, you're an attractive girl, so if things don't work out with your boyfriend, you know I'm available anytime.
Oh no, this is really too much. Jackie thinks so too. And so she says in the article, look, Thomas, this conversation is making me uncomfortable.We
have a couple of words to look at here. The first is conversation, which is when two or more people talk to one another. It's any time from when the speaking starts to when the speaking ends. You could have a conversation about one particular topic or a longer conversation that includes many topics. So you could say, It was a long train journey, so I had a few conversations with the person sitting next to me.
这边 Jackie 呢就说这段对话让我感到非常不舒服。Conversation 就是名词，指的是对话或是交谈。和谁有一段对话，英文你可以用 to have a conversation with someone. For example, she had a strange conversation with a man who moved in upstairs. 或者假设你在与某人交谈，但是旁边实在是太吵了，这个时候你就可以说It's impossible to carry on a conversation with all this noise going on.
The next word we need to look at is uncomfortable. If something is uncomfortable, it's not nice to experience. We could mean physically uncomfortable, like a hard chair or a bed. But here, we're talking about a subject that we don't want to talk about, or an idea that's making us feel angry, upset, or even a bit scared. Thomas's words are making Jackie want to stop talking and walk away. For example, we could say, The man kept looking at my legs, and his staring was making me uncomfortable.
这句当中的 uncomfortable 呢，这个形容词是不舒服的，让人感到不自在的可以指生理上面的，例如 I've eaten so much, I actually feel uncomfortable. 或者是 These shoes are really uncomfortable. 那同时你也可以用在感受上面。For example, an uncomfortable silence. It can mean the silence makes you feel slightly embarrassed.
So Jackie's response kind of makes Thomas realize he has said too much, so he tries to defend himself and make it seem it's not a big deal. He says, "You really don't know how to take a compliment." A compliment is a nice thing you say about a person to make them feel good. It could be about the way they look, like, hey, your hair's nice, cool t-shirt, you're looking well, and so on. Or it could be a compliment about their performance. Oh, great job! That was a really cool talk, and so on.
而这里的 compliment 这个名词意思是赞扬的话、恭维的话。For example, he complimented her on her new dress. 或者是 Are you fishing for compliments?Fishing 是钓鱼的意思，这里的 fishing for 就是 trying to get 想要得到赞美的意思，所以我们也可以看到文章里面呢，接受赞美的英文就是 take a compliment.
Now Thomas also says, "I only want to say you look good." So he's trying to change his story here to say he wasn't being serious about wanting to date Jackie.
But Jackie doesn't think this is good enough. She says, "But you need to be mature in the office, Thomas."
If someone is mature or acts in a mature way, they're acting like an adult. They are taking responsibility for what they do. They're taking things seriously, and they're taking other people's thoughts and feelings into consideration. Now, we don't expect this from young children. Kids will only become more mature as they get older, learn more about the world and who they are and everybody else. So we could say, for example, Sharon is only 12, but she's mature for her age. She always does her homework as soon as possible and helps her mother with many chores around the house.
这里呢出现一个单字 mature 就是成熟的，那是形容词，可以用在比喻人的个性上面。So mature people behave like adults. 而一位成人呢，大家对他的印象就是他的表现、行为举止理当是 mature 的。若没有呢，就会觉得很不妥，可能会让人家说呢 ，Can't you behave in a mature way?
So Jackie tells Thomas he needs to be more mature, and she also says, "We have to work together every day. I don't want to sit beside a colleague who is looking at me that way." So what she means is she doesn't want to sit with a colleague who's kind of looking at her and thinking, "Hey, you're in sexy clothes. Maybe you want me to ask you out. You know, I think you're attractive. And, you know, if your boyfriend leaves you, then you can come with me." She doesn't want to sit next to a guy who's basically acting like that all the time. She doesn't want that in a colleague. Now, a colleague, make sure, first of all, this is a hard G. It's a G sound. Colleague. It's not college, which is a school, which is a soft G. This is colleague. The U is a bit of a clue. A colleague is a person you work with. You can also say co-worker. Your colleague is in the same company or other workplace, but that doesn't have to be in the same office or even the same department. We could also talk about colleagues if you work in the same general area, such as two professors of English at different universities. We can say they're colleagues because their work is in the same subject area. Here's another example. I often have lunch with my colleagues at a restaurant near my office.
当你从学校 graduate 到职场上工作的时候呢，一起和你工作的伙伴及同事就称为 colleague。用这个字举个例子 His colleagues became suspicious when he did not appear at work, since he was always punctual. 当他没有来上班的时候，他的同事们就起疑了，因为他总是很准时。而还有一个字也可以称为同事，那就是名词的 co-worker， 也称为呢共同工作者。
So, after getting this kind of very strong warning and sort of message, "Leave me alone," from Jackie, Thomas says, "Okay, maybe we should just end this conversation now and just get to work."
They should end this a long time ago.
Really, yes.
That's good for Jackie, but is that the end of the story? We'll find out on day 2 of this article.
Yes, and right now we will go to today's For You chat question. So today's chat question, it relates to a word in our article and the subject. Has anyone ever made you feel uncomfortable in this way? In other words, in the same way Thomas is making Jackie feel. And how did you deal with it? And to be honest, it's kind of an uncomfortable question.
So it is.
If you don't want to answer, then I'll understand.
Well, actually, I did encounter this kind of situation before. I actually don't quite remember the details since it was a long time ago. However, I remember that I was very angry and upset at that time. And so the person who made me feel uncomfortable saw it through my facial expressions, and it ended the conversation. I really don't like that kind of feeling. Have you ever had this kind of experience before, Pat?
I mean, no, in terms of somebody behaving towards me. It's a sad thing. It does happen less often to men. It does happen to men.
Yeah, but
and,
less.
If you read some stories about the #MeToo movement, it is 90% women's stories, but it is also 10% men's stories where they've been kind of made to feel uncomfortable in the same way. Luckily, it's never happened to me. I hope I've never made anybody else feel uncomfortable in this way. I really hope not. If I have, I hope that people will tell me that, like, hey, that wasn't good, so I can apologize and learn from it. I guess it's something you have to be very careful with as a guy, and especially when you're talking with someone it's not both of your first language, something that you might think is just a joke might be taken more seriously. So you have to be very mature and very respectful. I may not have always been like that, and I hope I have always been good. If I haven't, then I guess I'm sorry, and I'll definitely not do that again. It's a difficult thing to say because no one's ever said to me, like, that's really creepy. Like, I don't think I've done anything like Thomas in this article.
No.
But as far as I know, maybe nobody just told me about it. But I've certainly never been in Jackie's situation. So that's something that's good. So what do we go from here? Well, is Jackie just going to kind of leave it alone and maybe she won't talk to Thomas anymore? Or is this going to be a little bit more serious? Well, we're going to find out in day 2 of this article tomorrow. So join us again for that on day 2. See you then. Bye for now.
Bye.
Workplace behavior. When conversation crosses personal boundaries.
Good morning, Thomas.
Hey, Jackie. How was your weekend?
It was great. I went to Hualien with my boyfriend.
You've got a boyfriend? I'm so disappointed.
What do you mean?
Well, I thought I had a chance with you.
I don't date guys I work with.
Well, you always wear sexy clothing to work, so I thought you wanted an office boyfriend.
My clothes aren't sexy. We have to dress nicely for this job. You wear a suit and tie, but I don't think you're sending me signals.
Well, you're an attractive girl, so if things don't work out with your boyfriend, I'm available anytime.
Look, Thomas, this conversation is making me uncomfortable.
You really don't know how to take a compliment. I only want to say you look good.
But you need to be mature in the office, Thomas. We have to work together every day. I don't want to sit beside a colleague who is looking at me that way.
Okay, maybe we should just end this conversation now and just get to work.
Vocabulary Review. Sexy. Linda wants to build some of her muscles because she thinks strong girls are sexy. Suit. Vera's new suit looks great on her. She looks like a powerful businesswoman. Conversation. Ethan and Mark had a long conversation about life on their camping trip. Uncomfortable. Blair feels uncomfortable walking alone at night, so she always goes places with several friends. Mature. Serena is quite mature for her age, and she has several friends a few years older than her. Colleague. Kate often goes to lunch with her colleagues. They talk about how their work is going.
智慧小补帖
Behavior. Boundary. Compliment.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作。活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net